Yeah, hello everyone. In the last class, we discussed about the transaction management in DBMS. Now, in today's class, I will be going to cover database users and administrators. Okay, so DBMS is used by the different people, and those people will interact with the DBMS based on their requirement and based on their role. Okay, so these users are classified into two categories now: database users versus administrators. Here we'll start with the database users. So database users may be end users or application users, sophisticated users, or any specialized users. We'll see one by one where each uses the database for what purpose. Okay, see here the first one is the end user, where end users, like if you take an example called as college app attendance management. So my college is running an app to maintain the attendance of each student and marks. Okay, so here the student is an end user, faculty is an end user, teacher is an end user. So here students and teachers interact with the app application to communicate with the database. Means here each student marks and each student marks and attendance is stored somewhere else. That is called as a database. Okay. See here student or the faculty or any users is not writing any program or any query to get the data like marks or attendance. They'll just right click, they'll just log into the application or app using their IDs. Okay, so they'll get their marks or attendance. Yes or no? They're not writing any program or any query to get their marks or the attendance. So here the end users communicate with the database indirectly through an application. This is the mediator. This mediator gives the user's requirement like marks or the attendance and communicate with the database and gives the result to the user. Okay, so there is an here that is an end user uses the database indirectly. So here the application programmer or the backend developer who communicate with the database to give the result to the user. So users using this application and getting the results. Here how the user is able to get the details means there in the backend there is a program which communicates with the database to get the result. Okay, so thus called as application programmer who communicate with the database. These developers write some application program to communicate with the database using some languages like either Java or Python, any other languages to communicate with the database. Okay, I hope you understand. So end user like ours, a student, to get the attendance, they'll just log into the app and they'll able to see their marks based on the requirement. If they want to see marks, if they want to see attendance, they can get their attendance. Or else any, if you take an example like ATM machine. Okay, so in ATM machine, there are the features withdraw, check balance, everything. Okay, so here I'm a user. I'm click on the check balance. I'm getting my amount, how much is left in my account. Okay, just by clicking the check balance, I'm able to see my amount. Okay. I'm not writing any program. I'm not running any SQL query to get my balance. Where my balance is stored, it is stored in somewhere else called as a database. So, how I'm getting my amount, which is stored in database, in backend, at the backend, there is a program which is communicating with the database. Here, who is writing this data program to communicate with the database? Application programmer or the backend developers writes the program to communicate with the database and give the result to the user. Okay, so indirectly we are communicating, user is communicating and directly communicating with the database through application, through program called as application programmer or the backend developers. They'll write the program either using any language like Java or Python. Okay, this programmer fetches the data from the database and give the result to the user. Next, database designers. He is responsible for the designing the database structure of the database. It is the storage space, arranging the data in a proper way. Structure of the database will be maintained by the database designer. Okay, so this designer maintain the database schema based on the business requirement. Based on the data you have stored in the database, this database designer structure the data, structure the table. Like this designer finds the relation between the data or and create the entity relationship models. Each and everything who is responsible, database designer. Okay, so simply he is the responsible for arranging the data or structuring the data in the database. Okay, next, system analyst. He is the mediator, we can call. He maintains the gap between the business users or the client and the technical team. So here the system analyst communicate with the client and the technical team, and here system responsibility is, analyst responsibility is, he has to know the requirement of the user. Based on that, he has to update to the technical team. He has to define the structure, database structure, along with designers and the developers. Okay, so he has to update to the designers and developers based on the user requirement, or else we can call a client requirement. Suppose here the client is a principal. Principals want an application, an app to store the college details, fees, marks, each and every student marks and fees and attendance. So, if principal's requirement is, if the user is a student, they can access their details. If user is a teacher, they can access entire class details. That is a principal requirement. Okay, so he is the client. It is a client requirement. He has to, the system analyst has to update these details to the technical team, also to the designer. So technical team write the code or the design, write the code according to the user's requirement, and designer arrange the table in the database to store the data, structure the data, okay, and finds the relation between the data. That is comes under system analyst. Is also a user which communicate with the database indirectly. Next, I hope you understood. We can call another one sophisticated users, specialized users. Specialized users uses the database. Like suppose you are building a machine learning model to predict the weather. Okay, so to predict the weather, you need some data called from past 3 years data you need. So these 3 years data is stored in somewhere else, that is called a Dbms. Okay, you will get, you need the data of 3 years from the database. You are using it and analyzing the data using some like advanced technique called as a machine learning model. You are training it and predicting the future. So you are not writing any SQL query or any program to get the data. You are just utilizing it, the database, and training the model for predicting the future. Okay, so there are some specialized users uses the database for the predicting the future also based on the previous data. Okay, next, sophisticated users uses the database. We can call them as a sophisticated users where communicate with the database using SQL query without writing any program. Okay, so application programmers write the program to communicate with the database and gives the result to the end users, where sophisticated users communicate with the database directly just by writing the SQL query. We can call these users as a data analyst. They'll analyze the data which is stored in the database for the, like seeing the trends, which is which product is selling more fast, which product is selling less. For the analyzing the data, uh, they'll use the they'll communicate with the database directly. Okay, so these are the different users uses the database. They'll use the data which is stored in the database. Okay, they're not maintaining anything. They're not providing any security. These users just utilize the database which is stored in the database. Like users uses the database through a mediator called an application. Application program will directly communicate with the database to give result to the user. Sophisticated users uses the database just by writing the SQL query to analyze the data, like data analyst. System analysts communicate with the business client and the technical team to maintain the, to reach the client requirement. Okay, these are the different users uses the data in the database. Okay, now who is responsible for maintaining all these things, like whether it is the security wise, whether it is the performance wise, everything will be maintained by the database administrator. Okay, so he's the owner which provides the database. We are here, all users are utilizing this data which is stored in the database. So who is maintaining each and everything? So database administrator, we can call them as owner of the DBMS. So he is the central authority. he maintains the entire DBMS database in the data for providing the security. Like, what is the key role of this database administrator is he has to maintain the structure of the database. He has to store the data properly. He has to maintain the security. If it is deleted or if anything happens due to at the server issues, he should get it back. He has a backup and recovery, and he has to analyze the data. He has to maintain the users based on the type of users. He has to give access, like a student versus teacher. Based on the type of users, he has to give access. If our students can access enter details, then that is not correct, right? The database administrator has to maintain that the user management also. When multiple people are trying to access the database, that also to be maintained, that is comes under concurrency control, installation process of the database software, and update each and everything. He is a database administrator. That product is mine. I am the responsible person that has to maintain properly. That is called as a database administrator. Users uses the database based on the requirement, but administrator has to reach the user's requirement. He has to arrange it properly. Okay, that is about that role is played by the database administrator. We can call it as owner of the DB, database administrator. Okay, I hope you understand the user versus administrator difference. Okay, how users uses the database, how administrator maintains the database. Okay, so this is about the user and the administrator of the database. We'll see the next topic in the next class. That is a database system architecture. That's all for today. If you have any doubt, please let me know, and please give me some feedback in the comment section. And what should I need to improve, and what your expectations? Do I meet your expectations or not? And please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you. That's all for today.